Talking with the experts.
Many small businesses struggle to get off the ground. In episode 330, Rupert Lane explains how Probo can support startup and small business.
I've got a lot of ideas for Probo. At the moment, I'm building it myself. We're still in the relatively early stages. We only actually launched the site earlier this year. So it's all about building our community at the moment. And of course, the bigger the community gets, the more value it is for everybody, because the wider set of skill sets we get in there, and so it's all about that at the moment. In terms of the functionality of the site, at the moment, it's just the written word that we include in that. What I'm hoping is that we will have in the next iteration of Probo, which I'm hoping will come along, within the next year certainly, we'll have the ability for people to connect through video, through audio, and actually potentially, create community events where.
Welcome to Talking with the Experts. This is where we discuss great ideas to take your business to the next level. How do we know these ideas work? Well, it's because we're talking with business owners who are using these ideas. Business owners who have years of experience and expertise. All things business by business owners for business owners. And now, here is your host, Rose Davidson.
Hello and welcome to Talking with the Experts. I'm your host, Rose Davidson from rosedavidson.com. Talking with the Experts is all about business by business owners for business owners. And you can find it on all good podcasting streaming platforms and on YouTube. My host today is Rupert Lane from the UK, and we're going to be talking about startup and small business support. And many small businesses struggle to get off the ground, not because they lack talent in what they do, but because they may lack all the knowledge required to launch and run a startup and the cash flow to pay for it. Yes, been there, done that. Rupert's company, Probo, aims to encourage startup owners to collaborate in order to gain this essential information, and rather than paying for it, they pay it forward. Wow, that's a great idea. I love that. Welcome, Rupert, and thank you for joining me today.
Thank you, Rose. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, so how did you start in Probo Tech?
Well, it's a long story. I've got almost 30 years of corporate experience working for big global organizations, mainly in business development, sales and marketing. And so I was actually working in the events business when the pandemic hit. I probably don't need to tell you or any of your listeners what that did to the events business, and I suddenly found myself needing to find something else to do. So I thought, well, it'd be quite interesting to set myself up independently as a business development specialist. And so I did that. And what very, very quickly became apparent to me was that when you launch a small business, and I was doing this, in the sort of end of the third decade of my career, I was suddenly going into startups. You know what you're good at and the reason you set your business up, but you realize that there's so much more you need to know about business in general. And whether that be tech or marketing or recruitment or whatever it is, you've suddenly got to be an expert in everything. And no one is, and no one can be. And so I figured that kind of immediately puts you at a disadvantage when you're trying to start your business. And you have to prioritize how you spend your money, because cash flow is always a big challenge for you. And it's hard to prioritize some of those things when the bills all need paying, etc. So I thought, well, if there was an environment where startup entrepreneurs and small business owners could go and get actionable help and advice that isn't time consuming for the person giving it to you, but actually is hugely, hugely valuable for your point of view, that would be really, really useful. And actually, one thing you do have as a startup owner, if you haven't got enormous amounts of cash flow, you do have the ability to pay it forward. And if that's not going to take up a lot of your time, the cost to you is very, very small, but the value to the recipient can be huge. And I thought if you can set up a forum where that exists, that could really help propel far more small businesses that otherwise might not make it.
So how does it work?
So with Probo, how it works is you go onto the site, you register a few of your details, exactly like you would on some of the other professional social media sites, and then if you've got a question, you post it out there, and anyone can offer to respond. But where this differs from some of the professional forums on maybe some of the mainstream social media sites is you don't start a great long thread. And this is where I struggled with some of the existing professional advice out there. You put a question out there, lots and lots of people sort of chuck their opinion in about, in responding to it, and it can get very confused and very contradictory. Often it can get confrontational because we all know people love to be very, very direct and blunt when it's, when they're in the virtual space. And also what ends up happening very often is someone tries to sell you their services. And that's kind of not what you need when cash flow is restrictive. So I thought, well, actually, if you can create an environment where it doesn't become a great long thread, but actually you interact with someone on a one-to-one basis, in a much more transactional way, but the transaction is not financial, then actually that becomes much more useful. So you can post what we call a probit request, and any number of people can offer to respond to it for you, but that doesn't go into the public space immediately. So you see all the people that have said, okay, I think I can help you with this because X, Y, and Z. And then you decide who you want to engage with on that. And you can see their profile. Everyone has a profile page where you've listed what your skills are and where you've worked and all of those things. So you can get a really good feel as to who the person is who's responding to you and what it is they can bring to you. And then, if their answer that they've posted to you is sufficient and has answered your question, then that's great. You can choose that as the chosen probit request, and then that goes back into the public space so everyone can see that. Or alternatively, we've built a one-to-one messenger within the system, so you can interact with people on a one-to-one basis, create a relationship if you both choose to do that, and actually get to the point where the advice you've been given is meaningful and actionable and is really going to help you. What I've discovered through building my previous business and now this one is people actually enjoy helping, and people get a good feel through doing it. And if it's not going to be hugely time consuming for you, people are prepared to do that. So, people come and help you, and then you can pay that forward. So, for example, my specialization is business development, but what I'm really bad at is tech. So I could have really done with somebody giving me some advice about what I should have been trying to do in terms of setting my website up and all of those things. And if somebody had given me, like a 5-point plan, not done it for me in any way, give me a 5-point plan. These are the questions I should be asking. This is what I should be looking for when I'm speaking to developers. That would have been so useful to me. It would have cut a lot of time out of the process. It would have actually saved me a great deal of money, as it turns out. And then when I see someone who needs a few hints and tips about, they've built whatever their business is, but they don't really know how to get it out there, really don't need to know how to evangelize about it or what social media channels to use to market it or whatever, I can spend 10 minutes of my time helping them. And so that's what it is. It's a transactional space, transactional, I hope, safe space where people can interact with each other, can help each other with meaningful bits of advice, and if they want to, create a longer term relationship.
Yeah, it sounds like an interesting concept. It's like mentoring and bartering and all things rolled into one.
Yeah, it is. That's exactly what it is. And it's something that exists in lots of different areas of business, whether it be through social media forums or live, face-to-face networking or any of those things, or even pitching for business. When we pitch for business, we often give a little bit of our help, of our expertise in doing that pitch. And so it's kind of bringing all of those things together into one, hopefully very manageable environment.
So is this available globally or just in the UK?
Absolutely no, because the thing is, there are some bits of advice that may be specific to one country. So whether it be maybe accounting advice or legal advice, that's kind of going to be probably specific to one country. But other things like tech, like marketing, like recruitment, it doesn't matter where you are in the world. That stuff is the same. If you're running a small business, the issues you're facing are the same, and the help that the type of advice you're looking for is the same. So, I'm based in London. I think you're based in Hobart, aren't you, Rose?
I am, yes.
like, if we were looking at marketing our businesses, the issues you and I are going to face are exactly the same. It doesn't matter that we're sitting on opposite ends of the globe. So I think it absolutely should be global. And the experience I've had so far from the people who've joined the community, I've got a lot of people in the US having joined, quite a few in India, because actually business is global now. It's completely global.
Well, it is absolutely, yeah. The pandemic's made it that way, and I'm grateful for it too, because I wouldn't be talking to people like you.
exactly that. Yeah, and I mean it creates opportunity.
Absolutely. So is there any cost to joining?
No, you sign up. It's totally free to sign up. The only cost is a little bit of your time paying it forward. That's all we ask, is that you give what you take. And so the reason I wanted to create it is because I know cost is such an issue to this particular group. And so I built it because I felt really I'd received some amazing help and advice myself when I was trying to set up my sales and marketing consultancy. I'd received it in quite an informal way, and it was more luck than anything else that I'd stumbled across someone who could help me with the specific issues I'd got. But I think the reason it is often just luck that will get you those introductions is because we have our professional networks, but very often our networks tend to be made up of people who've got similar skills to ourselves, because we've come across them during our careers. So, for me, I know lots of people who do sales. I know lots of people who work in the media and events industries. That's great. But I didn't know anybody who worked in tech. And so what this does is it moves you outside of your existing professional environment for free. And as I say, all that we ask in terms of cost is that you are prepared to give a little bit of your expertise to pay it forward, not in a time-consuming way, but the value you've built up through your experience during your career.
So is it monitored? Like, just for instance, if I were to ask you for some advice, and
yes.
Then I just went away with that advice and never came back to pay it forward to somebody else, is that monitored at all?
Yeah, well, we're a small team at the moment. We're in the very early stages, but yes, we monitor it. And if we feel there's any kind of abuse, I use the word abuse very loosely. If we see any kind of abusive language on there or whatever, we immediately block the person from continuing to use it. But equally, if we see someone taking and not working in the spirit of Probo, we'll probably contact them ourselves and say, look, come on, hopefully you're getting some good value out of this, but we really appreciate, we can see the skills that you've got, and we can see people asking those questions. Work in the spirit of the community and try and pay for it. If someone continues to be unwilling to do that, then we'll probably suggest that it may not be the right community for them, because this is all about paying it forward.
Yeah, it's good to hear, because there are a lot of takers and not. And
there are.
And it's unfortunate that they'll take and not give back.
Yeah, there are a lot of people out there who will do that. Equally, there are an awful lot of people out there who do enjoy giving people the benefit of their own experience and advice. And I think, those relationships can be absolutely two-way, just as mentoring, you mentioned mentoring, Rose, just as mentoring relationships are always supposed to be two-way. The person, who's got the experience, who's giving something back to maybe somebody who maybe earlier in their own career, they get something out of that too. And that should be the case with the Probo community.
Absolutely. Yeah, I agree. As I said previously, it's an awesome innovation, and well worth getting involved in, I think. I mean, we've all got some skills. I mean, it doesn't have to be just totally business skills. There could be other skills that could be on offer there to do with, mental health or stress or whatever.
Absolutely.
So, because I know
there's an awful,
very stressful.
It is incredibly stressful. I've learned that over the last couple of years in a way I didn't, I thought I kind of knew most things about business. I realized that there's a whole world in business that I hadn't been exposed to at all. And I think you're absolutely right. Mental health is a big part of that. When you start up your own business, it can be incredibly isolating. And again, that's why it's really, really important to be part of a community, because, if you you're sitting at your kitchen table or whatever, which is what people are often doing when they're starting their own businesses, actually, if you can connect with people, even in the virtual space, who are going, yeah, no, I'm having a really tough week because of this or that or whatever, you go, okay, I'm not alone. That's great. Okay, and it can give you the drive to keep going. So yeah, everyone has something to give.
Yeah, absolutely. It doesn't matter how big or how small. Even the
Right.
smallest bit of advice could be helpful to someone somewhere.
Exactly. Never underestimate what you've got that you can offer to someone else.
Absolutely. Rupert, have you got any other plans in mind for Probo?
I've got a lot of ideas for Probo. At the moment, I'm building it myself. We're still in the relatively early stages. We only actually launched the site earlier this year. So it's all about building our community at the moment. And of course, the bigger the community gets, the more value it is for everybody, because the wider set of skill sets we get in there, and so it's all about that at the moment. In terms of the functionality of the site, at the moment, it's just the written word that we include in that. What I'm hoping is that we will have in the next iteration of Probo, which I'm hoping will come along, well, within the next year certainly, we'll have the ability for people to connect through video, through audio, and actually potentially, create community events where more than one person can come together. If this is an issue that people enjoy to discuss in the form of some sort of debate or seminar, there'll be the opportunity to do that. So no, there's all sorts of things in the pipeline at the moment that we're working on, but what we want to do at the moment is make sure we've got a really solid community of people that will help to make that happen for each other.
Absolutely. Rupert, where can people find Probo?
It's very simple. It's www.probo.co.
Oh, simple as.
Really simple. Yeah. You go onto the site, you'll see there's a whole part of the site before you register where hopefully it'll give you a really good idea about what Probo is about. There's a little video on there that shows you how to use it, explains to you a little bit about what the spirit is of using it, and then you just simply go onto the login registration page and put a few of your details in. Ideally, stick a profile photo in there as well, so people can see you. Don't have to do that if you don't want to, and then just get going and just post. Ask people for help, because people are out there to help.
I guess the question now comes down to privacy and security. How secure is the site, and how private are your details?
Your details are completely private. We're totally GDPR compliant for European purposes. I've made sure that we've built the platform very, very securely, so that your details are completely secure. You only put up there what you're comfortable putting. We don't demand anything apart from an email address. So if there's things you don't want the world to know about, don't stick them up there.
Yeah.
But it's there's no personal information up there. It's just professional information about where you feel your skill sets are and where you've worked, if you're happy to impart that information. Because the more people know about you or feel they know about you, I think the more comfortable they're going to be in engaging with you. But as I say, it's completely up to you what you decide to put in.
Well, I've got a few listeners, so anyone who's listening to this broadcast today or into the future, I think if you go to www.probo.co, I think, and you want to help other business owners, if you don't have to be a startup yourself, obviously, you could have been in business for such a long time. And if you've got a few minutes, once a week or something to help somebody else on their journey of startup, then please go to the website and register your name and just offer your help for a little bit, because in business, it's always good to pay it forward. And paying it forward, builds up the serotonin and the all good feely hormones in your body, and paying it forward is always something that we don't do enough of, I don't think, in business. I think we try to keep things to ourselves too much and keep our knowledge to ourselves. So help Rupert out, get onto the website, register your name, and off you go and help somebody else.
Thanks, Rose.
Yeah. So any last words of wisdom that you'd like to share, Rupert?
I guess, yeah. I mean, something that somebody said to me right at the beginning when I was doing this, and has really helped me keep going through my small business journey, is simply keep going. It sometimes takes longer than you think it's going to get off the ground. There are going to be days when you go, oh, I don't know if this is going to work. But it is those people that do keep going and drive through those feelings and emotions, working as a startup entrepreneur, that generally tend to make it. So on the days where it feels a bit tough, don't let that get you down. If you need to talk to other people, get involved with your community, the Probo community, whoever. Get chatting and yeah, just keep going.
Yeah, keep the conversation going.
Exactly.
Absolutely. Rupert, thank you. It's been very interesting to discover about this new phenomenon. I think I might call it that.
I'm hoping so.
I think it's a phenomenal initiative.
Fantastic.
Thank you so much for joining me today.
Thank you, Rose.
You've been listening to Talking with the Experts, hosted by Rose Davidson. Make sure you have a look at our back catalogue over at talkingwiththeexperts.com. And be sure to subscribe to our podcast so you don't miss out on any episode. We look forward to your company next time. Talking with the Experts.